Hey, welcome to today's lesson. Now, we're going to be looking at something that is very, very important when it comes to your relationship with nutrition and how we can build sustainability. It's all about sustainability. It's all about enjoying your food and continuing to make progress on the goals that you want. And to do this, we need to eradicate the all or nothing mindset, because there is nothing worse than that all or nothing mindset, because it literally is going to set you up for failure. So that's what today's lesson is all about. It's about transforming your relationship with food for good. So this presentation is going to help you understand the emotional side of nutrition and help you create healthy relationships with food and build trust in what you eat and the way you go about it. Okay, very, very important lesson. I strongly advise you might want to take some notes during this one as well. So we have the all or nothing trap first and foremost. Now we've got a little wheel here. All right, so first up, we've got clean eating. So strict dieting all week, rigid food rules. That is not setting you up for success at all. Those rigid rules are not working. Even though you think they might be, they're not working. What that will lead to, if I can speak, is a weekend binge, overwhelming cravings because you've restricted so much during the week, and you kind of cave in at the weekend because things are a bit more relaxed, we've got less structure, and it's a lot easier, and the food is available, it's ready, it's available everywhere, this kind of food that we're trying to control to a certain extent. So important that we just focus on that. All right, then we get guilt and shame after that. So you feel like you've failed, you feel like you've lost control, you feel like, why do I keep doing this? You don't know, you're searching for the answer, you don't know. But then you say to yourself, right, got the Monday restart, I'm going to vow to be perfect again next week. So you try to be perfect all week. It goes into the clean eating with the rigid rules. That then leads to a weekend binge, leads to guilt and shame, leads to a Monday restart. Do you see how this works, guys? It just goes round and round like a hamster wheel. Now, the thing is, it's not about discipline. It's just about how you approach it and your mindset around it. So this cycle continues because of how we think about food, not who we actually are. It's what you think about food that is the problem. So emotional eating awareness. Now, what is emotional eating? Well, emotional eating is using food to cope with feelings rather than actually being hungry. You're eating because of how you feel, your emotions, not because you're actually hungry. The common triggers behind this could be stress, could be boredom, could be sadness, could be celebration, it could even be loneliness, okay? This can trigger people into emotional eating. Now, it's not always bad. It's about awareness, not shame or judgment. It's not a bad thing if you cave into those kind of common triggers that I just spoke about there, but we just need to be a bit more in control of them. And we'll approach the 80-20 method in a second that I'm going to talk about and I preach about a lot, but it's not a bad thing. I want you to eradicate the kind of good or bad mindset around food, all right? It's not like that. And pause and check in method. So I want you to start thinking, am I hungry, or is it the fact that I'm a bit stressed at work? Is it the fact that I'm a little bit sad this week? Is it the fact that I'm just bored and I'm just going to the cupboard out of boredom? It's almost the case, I call this consciously thinking about your food rather than subconsciously being an autopilot. Consciously think about the food that's in front of you. If you find yourself rummaging through the cupboards on autopilot, just stop and think and say, right, do I actually need that? And the majority of the time, it's going to be no. So, guilt after eating. Why does this happen? So, this is because we create food rules. Really, first and foremost. So creating rigid, good or bad food categories is not a good way to go about anything. So what happens when we break these rules? Well, when we go off plan, in air quotes, off plan, it's going to trigger intense feelings of failure, which again is the opposite of what we're trying to achieve here. We're trying to think positively. We're trying to really be on the front foot. Then what happens is you get a shame response. So that shame fuels more restriction and more punishment because you think, what's the point? I'm a failure, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and then the cycle continues. So the next week you set yourself rigid food rules. You say, I'm going to eat good foods, not bad foods. Those two kind of words I don't want to associate with nutrition. Then you have a day off or even a one meal off, and you think you're a failure, intense feelings of failure. That shame response kicks in, so you feel like you're a failure, you continue, say, what's the point? And then the cycle continues. So it isn't your body that's the problem. The rules that you make for nutrition is the problem. So permission to eat all foods breaks this cycle. Having that more relaxed approach will break this cycle, but you've got to be receptive to that approach. So, how to build consistency, not perfection. It is not about perfection. I think people feel we need to be perfect. We do not need to be perfect. We just need to be consistent with a strategy. So first up is small habits. So it's starting with 5-minute daily food prep or adding one vegetable to your lunch. tiny, tiny, tiny repeatable actions. Be extreme 2-hour meal preps, whether it's just chicken and broccoli, and five of those set for lunch throughout the week. Let's just have a little kind of conscious thought process about it and think, what's realistic for me and how can I make this work? And it'll be small changes. So one week you add 1 vegetable to your lunch, the next week you'll add 2, the next week you'll add 3, and just build it from there. Before you know it, you've got an amazingly healthy lunch that you actually enjoy, and it's not a drama trying to prep it every weekend. Okay, next, progress focus. So we're going to track weekly consistency. So for example, 15 out of 21 meals are aligned with your goals. That's great. It's not perfect days or strict calories that is going to really, really work. It's going to be the majority of the meals. If they're good, that's sustainable. Because I want you to have flexibility. I want you to enjoy certain foods. And I said they're good. I shouldn't have said the word good there. But if the majority of your meals are kind of aligned with your goals, then the rest of them can be the foods that we know and love and enjoy, and you wouldn't necessarily associate with dieting. And then the consistency calendar. So mark each aligned meal on your calendar. Okay, I know it sounds silly, I know it sounds like a pain, but it will work. So 4 off, air quotes again, off meals in 21 is still an 80% success rate. And 80-20, I talk about this a lot, that 80-20% success rate is going to take you a long way. It's going to build long-term results. So here's a great quote for you. Messy consistency beats perfect inconsistency. 3 balanced meals most days will transform your health more than alternating between perfect eating and then binges. Focus on what you can sustain for months, not what looks impressive for a week, not what looks impressive on social media. So here's a few tools to try and reframe overeating. So first up is no punishment, all right? Skip the makeup, workout, or next day I'm going to not eat, okay? Skip this, okay? The workout isn't going to kind of make up for what you've eaten. The starving yourself the next day is definitely not going to work. So we need to kind of avoid this, that punishment mindset. So these are just going to reinforce the shame restriction cycle. Instead, drink water, eat balanced meals, and practice a bit of gentle self-talk. You know, again, I don't want it to sound hippy-dippy, but it works. So things like, my body deserves care regardless of yesterday's choices. So it's completely counterproductive if you've had a day of eating and drinking over your calories or sugary, salty, fatty foods the day before. Starving yourself the next day is completely counterintuitive, because you're just going to be starving the day after and then probably overeat again. And it's just reinforcing that negative cycle. Curious reflection. So ask specific questions. Was I overly hungry? Feeling stressed about work? Eating while distracted? So journal for 5 minutes without judgment. So identify specific emotional triggers from the last slide that might have contributed to this feeling and how you are doing. And then next best choice mindset. So when you feel the I've ruined everything, that thought emerging in your head, counter it with, I can choose a protein-rich breakfast, I can drink water with my next meal, or I can go for a gentle 10-minute walk. Small immediate actions are going to break up the all or nothing cycle. So don't think of it in terms of a negative, like I've ruined everything. Think of it as, the next meal, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So let's think of it and try and reframe it in a positive mindset. And now we have to build some self-trust with food as well. So food freedom is first up on this pyramid here. Enjoying pizza night without guilt or compensation. You've got to enjoy things in life. You've got to enjoy the foods in life. Food is amazing, guys. It tastes incredible. You know, pizza is friggin' amazing. I want you to enjoy it. So I want you to enjoy pizza night without guilt or compensation. Well, how can we do this? Well, we can do it with the 80-20 approach. So like I spoke about, 16 out of 20 meals were nutrient rich. 4 out of 20 were purely for enjoyment. So fish and chips, pizza, a couple of beers, you know, that kind of stuff. That 80-20 approach allows you to have flexibility with your diet and still achieve your goals. Practice this flexibility. So keep formally forbidden foods in your home. So you can have chocolate at home, you can have crisps at home, but we have to be conscious around them. We don't just want to be eating them for the sake of eating them when we're not hungry. We want to be conscious and we want to be fairly controlled with it. And then trust foundation. So no foods are off limits or require the earning mentality. So you don't have to earn any foods, all right? Restriction breaks trust with yourself. You don't trust yourself. That's eventually what this boils down to, is the fact that you don't trust yourself to control your nutrition and control what you put into your mouth. So when you allow chocolate in your pantry and the occasional takeaway meals without compensation through exercise, you prove to yourself that you can be around all foods and you can still be in control. You can prove to yourself you won't lose control, and that's what we need to get to. So this trust building process process directly counteracts the all or nothing cycle by removing the forbidden fruit, in air quotes again, effect that leads to weekend binges and the Monday restart. So mindset shift summary, from willpower to self-compassion. Okay, so we need to go from restricting bad foods and creating rigid eating rules that lead to shame cycles, to embracing an 80-20 approach that allows flexibility while still supporting your goals. We need to remove the willpower mindset of punishing yourself with extra workouts after overeating or breaking your diet. And we need to move to self-compassion, so using the next best choice mindset. So the next meal is going to be way better. And then we need to get away from believing perfect adherence is the only path to success. And we need to move towards practicing messy consistency instead of unsustainable perfection. So progress isn't made in perfect weeks, all right? Progress is made in the imperfect ones. It's how you respond to the imperfect weeks. Building self-trust through permission, not restriction. Trusting yourself to be in control and stay in control. So practice actions to start right now. Reflect before reacting. Pause and check in with your true hunger before responding to cravings. Am I actually hungry? Just think about it. Honestly, so simple, but am I hungry? Eat slowly, so check in mid-meal to assess satisfaction and fullness. Chew your food a bit slower. We don't need to wolf it down, you know. It's not going to get taken off us anytime soon. Just take your time, chew slowly, and then you're going to be fuller sooner, honestly. Drop food labels, so stop saying foods are naughty or bad or cheat foods. They are not. All right, all food is the same. Food is food, and it can help us. Every single food can help us in a certain way. And forgive faster, so practice self-forgiveness after eating experience that feel, air quotes again, brought them out again, off track. Okay, forgive yourself a bit faster. So, final message from me, guys, pretty much. One habit. Start with one small change this week. 80% consistency. Aim for progress, not perfection. And that we want 0 fresh starts. So no more starting over needed. You don't need to start over. You just need to keep going. And we're going to break emotional eating patterns. So we need to recognize triggers, identify what emotions or situations lead to emotional eating, develop alternatives, so create a list of non-food coping strategies for each trigger. Practice response, so use alternatives when triggered, even when imperfectly, and build new patterns. Over time, new responses become more automatic. So recognize the triggers, develop alternatives, create a list of non-food coping strategies for each trigger. Could be going for a walk, okay? Practice a response, use alternatives when triggered, even if imperfectly. So get practicing those alternatives, and then build new patterns. Over time, new responses become automatic. So when you get triggered by stress, for example, you're going to go for a walk, you do that walk, and then that's going to start reinforcing to yourself, every time I get stressed, I'm going to go for a walk. So that's how that is going to work. Here we have a little graph. If you're just listening to this, you won't be able to see this graph, but basically it's the power of daily check-ins. So essentially, we've got, like, if you do a daily check-in with yourself, your awareness level and your self-compassion, they can both really, really go on a great consistency, upwards trajectory. That's the word I'm looking for. So yeah, a daily check-in with yourself about the awareness of what you're eating and a bit of self-compassion over time. They're going to be really, really important. Those reflections: am I hungry physically before eating? How do I feel afterwards? Starting to break that all or nothing mindset. So really, really important. We have a higher awareness level around the food that we eat, around ourselves, and we're a bit more compassionate with what we're actually doing. So your relationship with food really matters, all right? Social connection. Food brings us together. Food has been a social thing since the dawn of humanity, okay? A healthy mindset allows you to fulfill and participate in celebrations in life without guilt. Body wisdom, so your body knows what it needs. Learn to trust these signals. Listen to your body a little bit more. It's going to create more of a natural balance with your nutrition. And then the mental freedom, so breaking the all or nothing cycle. So this is going to free mental energy. We're not wasting energy worrying about food. And it's going to help you focus that energy on things that really matter in life. So you deserve a more peaceful relationship with food. This journey isn't just about what you eat, it's about how you live. And it's about how you talk to yourself, and it's about the habits that you instill, and it's about having flexibility and freedom with your nutrition without beating yourself up and punishing yourself. So hopefully this has made a lot of sense, guys. If you have any questions at all, drop me a message. You know where to find me. But if you don't, all good. Take all this on board. Hopefully you've made some notes as well, because it's a really important one. And I will speak to you all very soon.